I move we approve.
I move we approve.
Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. They are approved. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? Minutes are approved. Are we on a 7-second delay? Okay, we are at item 5 on the agenda. The application at 313 Baynard Street, identified as R120. We are at item 5 on the agenda. The application at 313 Baynard Street, identified as R120. We're at 4 or 5 on the agenda. 313 Baynard Street. Jeannie Rogers, agent. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 9.92D3 to allow a minor subdivision to create an additional lot at 313 Baynard Street. This property is further identified as on the tax rolls by the R120-004-000 440A-0000. Property is zone T4-HN- Historic Neighborhood District. Mr. Freeze.
Are we ready? Guess I'll find out. It starts repeating. Looks like it. We're good. It's working. Gonna go with it then. All right. This is a unique case that I don't know that this board has ever heard before. So it's going to take a little explanation. So just bear with me. And it is a public hearing. Obviously, I'll sit back down, the applicant can give their testimony, and anybody else. And then if you have any questions, feel free to ask after that. But as you referenced, this is a proposed subdivision that you see on, you can see the lot right there. It's a little over 0.9 acres. In the Point neighborhood, you referenced the address on Bayard Street. It's a subdivision that's being requested, or a variance from section 9.92D3. And so why this is unique. So when the city adopted the current development code, this is the form-based code that I think we've been operating under the last, 8 years now, 7 years. There was a provision in that section that doesn't really correspond with the minor subdivision section or some other sections where you would expect to find it, that essentially stated that any lot on the original historic, basically nomination from 1969, and it's in the packet, I think, I think it was actually formalized, although HPF's here, so they probably remember that, and it was in my packet, I think in 1972. So any lot in that historic district, that 300-acre historic district, cannot be subdivided without essentially a variance for this board. And so that has not been followed in those since 2017, I can tell you, until probably, I have Nick and my other planners, probably about a year ago. And this all started when we started doing the code review process we were really getting into the code, and I noticed this sentence, and, you know, it made some sense. And that, it was obviously added with that code process to protect the historic district. So the intent is that, really, that, those lots, if they're to be subdivided, it could change basically the historic nature of, development, historic district itself. If, new development existed, any of those blocks could change. So this was kind of a protection placed on any lot within the historic district, that if you were going to subdivide, it needs this variance before the zoning board of appeals. That's kind of the stage of this. Now, since then, a lot of subdivisions, I think, have been approved without being through this process. So we've been turning them down lately. So this request has come forward, by the family that's owned this property for, I think, since really Beaufort's existed, from what I think we can tell. So, and so this, as they'll state, they want to subdivide this property. And I understand they want to maybe add an additional subdivision. And to do so, it has to obtain your approval as a variance to subdivide. Thinking that this is going to be a very difficult situation and something that you haven't heard of before, or, you know, a difficult decision, I sent this first to the HRB to get kind of a recommendation. And so right now in the code, the HRB reviews anything in the historic district, including new development in the historic district. If you're going to do anything from building an addition, replace your windows, you know, to a brand new building, the HRB has to approve it. The HRB does have some waiver powers for design, but they do not. This was very specific in the code that only the ZBOA, it says specifically, as you can see in 9.9. As your packet, that sentence, it shall be approved by the zoning board of appeals. So while the HRB does, you know, have a lot of power in the historic district, this is specifically your power, and it was placed in the code for that very reason. The HRB refused to make a decision on it or a recommendation on it. You know, my thought with that, and that was purely my thought, is, you know, since this is kind of a unique case that hasn't been done before, it might be good to kind of get their feelings, since that's what they do all the time. They approve development, they protect the historic district. They declined to make a recommendation. That's probably maybe a good idea. Really think about it legally. So they're, you know, right now it's your decision. And so looking at the site, you can see the lot. I think they would also like to maybe, and I'll let the applicant speak on that, but where the fence line is, they'd also like to entertain maybe subdividing that tonight as well. And so since this was all advertised and it's a power you have, you know, it seems like if that's their intent, I don't think that would be a problem if you want to consider that as well. So they do have the letters from SCDOT and from Beaufort Jasper, a will serve letter. This is what the property looks like now. It's kind of in that triangular shape there. It's right on the river. This is the zoning. So pretty much everything around it is T4HN. So, but T4HN and the point has some specific requirements, some additional standards. So larger setbacks, larger minimum lot sizes than any other district really. And the point has the largest of all. So it is specific to the point, and that's in your packet. And this is just kind of a picture of the property that we're looking at. So another thing to mention is the existing house that was built in, I believe, let's go to that. I think in the 40s is a contributing structure. So that is something to consider as well. That's something that the historic board usually considers. So a contributing structure means that at the time the historic district was approved, and then when it was updated in 1999, 1997, yeah. 1999, I think it's in the packet. Let's see. 1969 and 1998. If it was, yeah, to maybe 2001. If it was considered 1998, I'm sorry. So when it was updated in 1998, any property that was considering a contributing historic resource that met the Secretary of Interior standards, so it had to be like 50 years old and have some, there's a lot of things. Was there a person of historical interest that lived there? Things of that nature. It has some very specific standards, so it has to go, basically, any property has to go to the HRB. So does that make sense? So if you were to build a house or do an addition or whatever it may be, you'd have to go to the HRB to get approved. Whereas if you were a non-contributing resource, and you didn't have that 50-year time span, or it wasn't considered historic in 2000 or 1998 and 1969, it could be maybe approved administratively by staff. You wouldn't have to go to a hearing. So that's the big difference in this. So like I said, this is a pretty complicated case, so let me just try to go through it all. So what does this mean for you? This property is considered a contributing resource. The house on it was over 50 years old in that 1998 decision, or that 1998 nomination. So anything that's done has to go to the HRB on this property. So does that make sense to everybody? Hopefully. Now looking at the site itself, as you can see from the picture, there's only one other contributing resource kind of within the block. And that I know I've referenced in your code. I think it's 30. Okay, so this is, let's see. Yeah, no other contributing homes, I think, are on this block of Bayard Street. So that is a unique issue with this case, is that, typically you see a lot of, especially in the point, a lot of historic homes and historic kind of built form. And here I guess you really don't see that so much. So that is something for you to just some background information. So with minor subdivisions, I think I've kind of got into this, but there's been a few dozen that have been approved by my department since this code reference has been adopted. And I've listed as many as I could find. I know when I first started here, unintentionally approved a few of these because I was not aware of, or just did not see this reference. Minor subdivision is usually if you have the utility and as long as we check the survey, it usually only takes a few days, and that's kind of done, in an administrative fashion within a few days. So this came in months and months ago. We rejected it. They've now made the application. It went to the HRB. They didn't make a decision. So it's before you today. And so when you look at the variance criteria, you have to make findings for, there's 6. And so A, is there extraordinary and exceptional conditions on this piece of property? B, do these conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity? Are these, C, the result of their own actions? D, would the variance conflict with the comprehensive plan or the master plan? E, would this effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property to the applicant if it was not given? And F, will it not be of substantial detriment to the public good? And so those are the things that you need to find. I've made some staff findings on this, and just finally, everybody was noticed within 200 feet for this. You're not supposed to grant a variance that for any use, increase of density, extend a non-conforming use of land, or, profitability is not supposed to be considered for this variance as well. But staff actually, because of the past and because I think some of those conditions of those 6 findings would recommend for it. It feels like, I guess the thought is that the families own this land for a long time. It does face the water. The home, the accessory dwelling unit that's already on it is not particularly historic either. And any new addition they'd have to do, if they ever did decide to develop the extra lot in question that doesn't have a home on it, would still have to go to the HRB. So I think staff feels like it's pretty protected in that sense, that anything that would be done would still be historically considered. And so, and just the thought that we have adopted, so, and that finally, this doesn't, this is specific to the land itself. It's kind of off from the point, it's not in the main part of the points, I would say. And, you know, I think those are the reasons I think staff thinks that it's, you know, something to be considered for a variance. But with that, I'll stop and let the applicant speak, so.
No,
I have a quick question. Did you indicate that the applicant's also looking for an additional subdivision? So,
That's what, they did talk to me about it a few times, but I think it wasn't reflected in the application, but this was advertised, so, it would.
but not, that was not advertised.
It was advertised for a minor subdivision. It's the same lot. It's the same tax map number. It's the same.
I would caution our members that I don't think that's ripe for review. And if we were to rule on that, it could be a problem.
all of these properties that were subdivided, are they illegally subdivided or they were approved by staff at the time and they're there? They can't be undone, I presume.
No, they can't be undone. I mean, they've been recorded. I think they're unintentionally, I think, done. Just as I was stating, this is kind of in a different section of the code, and I can't speak for the past, but I know in my first few months here, I wouldn't have thought to look in this section to do a minor subdivision because it's not with the minor subdivision section, reviewing the code. So I can't speak on, I think we did one or two when I was here, but you know, I became aware of it doing the minor.
Can you
We've been
put,
doing a pretty intensive code and edit process and we've gone through everything, and this came up last year in the summer. And after that, you know, it became very, I'm just trying to be as transparent and as honest as I mean, that's my fault, I know, but I'm trying to be as transparent as I can, is that we do have a lot that have been done in the last, you know,
But
10, 15 years.
can you put the survey back up?
Yeah, we can only work with the code that is in place right now. At this minute.
Correct. So we're looking at, there are 3 parcels. They want to
Well,
subdivide.
there's just one
the-
parcel, right?
But
now.
it's one parcel.
This is the
And I
proposed.
presume they want to subdivide along that dotted line that says wood fence.
I think you got to ask them that question. So.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do not understand what they're trying, because the wording says that divide the 0.9 acres into something and a 0.16 acre parcel.
Yeah, I mean, I will state that's what was submitted as a plat.
Okay.
I think you could, you know, it is one parcel. I think you could consider it, but, you know, they should have probably had a survey
well,
done for,
If
That
somebody-
as well.
If somebody then.
so this is a proposed survey. This is what was submitted to staff months and months ago.
So then
for
parcel
approval.
B,
That was rejected.
as listed on this plat, is what they want to subdivide off.
Is what we received, and this plat would be recorded if you approved it. This is what they submitted to us.
So this is only a proposed plat.
This is their proposed plat.
Well,
Okay.
it says, where did I see? Portion of block B, block 8, City of Beaufort, shown on a plat recorded in the Register of Deeds office in plat book 134, page 34. That sounds like a recorded plat to me.
Okay, but this is the proposed survey that hasn't been recorded yet, that you're seeing there. So this is what they were proposing to record. Does that make sense?
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you have to say that again.
I'm saying, what I'm looking at says that this is a plat that was recorded in plat book 134, page 34. It's not a proposed subdivision plat. It's a recorded plat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
which I'm gonna leave my lawyer's hat back in Florida.
No, it
So
makes
Parker, you can
perfect
put
sense.
yours on. It sounds like a recorded plat to me. And then the question then is, if it's a recorded plat, should it not have come to the city before it was recorded?
It should have.
And I guess you can't, can you unrecord a plat, Parker?
I'm just a member of the zoning board of appeals. I'm not a lawyer tonight.
So what it sounds like what they want to do is they want to take, do they want to take parcel A and make two parcels? Or do they want to have parcel A and B?
I'll let the applicant, because, you know, the records show that this hasn't been recorded.
Because, I mean, right now, the public records of Beaufort County show that there are two parcels on the property. Now,
Looking at the county mapping site. Okay, I'm looking at the county mapping site,
okay,
and it shows one large parcel of
1.06 acres.
1.06, something like that, yeah.
Let's go. Joe. But this is a good question, I think, you know, for the applicant, and then we can
Okay.
come back up, but let me pull it up.
1.04,
for
they
you.
say.
Any more questions for the planning department? At 1.06?
Take some time. I mean, it's showing it as 0.94 acres. And then the small parcel at 0.10 acres, so. Anyway, I'll let you ask them.
Could the discrepancy
Questions?
be because this has been in it's been on, I mean, it's prior to modern surveying equipment? Possibly.
Possibly, yeah. I don't think I can answer that, but. But did you want to, I think it's their turn. Would like the applicant to come up?
That sounds good.
Hi, I'm Jean Rogers. Um,
Ms. Rogers, please state your address for the,
I live at 30 Downing Drive, Beaufort, South Carolina, 29907. And I am the trustee of my mother's revocable trust. Jean Sam Zamar. I think in 2023, we had a survey done of the end piece of the property, the very end piece, no structure on it whatsoever. And that information was misplaced, destroyed, so I had to apply again in 2024. And so I got copies of the original survey. And we only surveyed, like I said, the end piece of the property. But when we went before the city, they said, if you are thinking about subdividing later, you may as well go for both parcels now, instead of having to redo all of this later. So I was looking at things and found out that my mother had had the middle property surveyed in, I think, 2012, and had it recorded.
Well, this survey is dated, this plat is dated March 23, 21.
Hmm.
And it says it was prepared for the Charles and Jeannie Amar Trust, 1.06 acres. And it shows two parcels, parcel A, which is 0.90 acres, and parcel B, which is 0.16 acres.
Right.
And apparently, someone recorded this plat in the public records of Beaufort County because it has a plat book and a page, which I guess gives us a
Was it-
dilemma.
I don't know, would the surveyor have done that? We did not. The only thing I know is when we decided to go for 3 complete parcels, we realized that Mom had already had a survey done of that middle property, which has the 1-story block house,
Right.
and that had been recorded, and that had a plat number, a book number, a page number in the book. But I don't,
Well, if that had been recorded, it doesn't show on this plat from 2021.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The plat was excuse me, I misspoke. Plat was recorded June 14th, 2011. And I guess what happened was they did record, I'd have to look at the plat, but you're saying she had what is shown as parcel A surveyed.
no, sir. Parcel A is the main house. May I approach, or do y'all have a copy of that one? I sent copies of that and this.
What? Fortunately, plats are digitized. Were you looking at the plat? Kevin, you want to join us? What's the matter? Closing plat.
Yeah.
Official records.
But
I'll pull
I
it
mean,
up
what
in a
we're
minute.
looking at here is.
This is the
entire
whole property.
Correct. That's a 1.044
Right.
acre.
There's the main house,
Mhm.
there's accessory, and
Like that on, right
Where's
there.
the other point?
That would have been done, that's the one that I gave originally, 23, and they were destroyed, but it was Yeoman's. Well, it wasn't Yeoman's. Out of business. So this is a copy made by Yeoman's.
I think, and I hate to say this, I think some of the confusion might be that this plat was prepared in 2021 and it was never recorded. Does that make sense? And it's
Where did-
referencing that 2011 plat that you have there, which had the whole property.
Where did you get this copy of this, of the plat on the screen?
Oh, that was what was submitted with the minors, with the
Should
variance.
That one and the one y'all hold should have been submitted by me at the same time.
Because the one you've given us now shows the entire property as a single property of 1.044 acres.
Right, but mom had that middle, the section with the blocks, one-story block. I think she had just that part recorded.
That would be a whole different plat then.
So that shows the whole thing. That plat that it's referencing on, from this plat,
Look at this.
but this plat, I think, this plat, I think, was drawn up in 2021 and never recorded. I think this is the issue, and that was probably what you were doing, is you had that plat redone so it could be recorded by a difference. Is that right? This is what you wanted to have.
This shows the entire, and it would show the 3 parcels we want.
But this wasn't recorded. It's referencing a plat. That's the plat. I think that's what Mr. Hoffman was referencing. That plat, according to the county, has never been recorded. So that's the request. Does that make sense? I think there's some does the confusion make sense? So they prepared this in 2021 and just never went through with recording it or getting it reviewed with the city. I'm gonna guess that's but I can't say for sure. But I wasn't able to find any record of it being recorded, so. County site is not showing it being recorded either. But it was done 3 years ago or 2 years ago.
Oh, here we go. Okay. This is what we're recording.
Yeah, that's what was
the-
recorded right here.
that's
what
the
she
plat.
has given us.
So-
This was done in 2021.
Right, so this is a proposed plat.
Proposed plat, but it's
Actually, it's a replat of,
saying that
right.
would have been done 3 years ago. That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I'm done with it. So, go ahead, I'm sorry. You clear?
Property. Divided between. Inherited the name. Property to create. Would be divided amongst. So, I have no heirs. My parents' wishes satisfy the trust. They would like to have it separated from the main property so that it will be put in their names and not, again, all of that, but they want it divided so that it's separate.
So, the main house would be one parcel, which is on this is shown as parcel A. And then you want parcel B divided into 2 lots, correct?
One lot.
Okay, so where would,
This is wood fence,
where would parcel A end?
parcel A would end with the fence.
At the where? At the wood, that's, okay. Okay. So that would be one lot.
Parcel B and the
So there would be 2 lots. One would be the area where it says 1-story block, and then the other would be parcel B.
Is there a reason why you're not trying to obtain that variance in this meeting tonight? If you're talking about a future, another subdivision?
confusion. Of the city, we're gonna go through time, why not do everything at one time? As I am applying for the variance.
Unfortunately, that's not what this request asks for. No, I understand that. You know, and the other part that I have, that there's a problem with on this is that the proposed, and on the background information, it says the proposed subdivision has been bought by the family trust for tax and financial purposes. And it clearly states that we are not allowed to approve anything for profitability is not to be considered. I'm,
I'm talking about financial because
mhm.
now we were talking.
It's my understanding we can't make a decision whether it benefits or,
Let's
is
see, where's the applicant's
detrimental regarding finances.
application?
That was me. Asking just for-
Vision.
Well, I think we have a fundamental question, and it's actually a question for you, as the applicant. Um, you know, Section 9.1.5 of the code requires a certain public notice. And that's to protect the city as well as the applicant, against a subsequent legal challenge if someone were to come out and subsequently oppose what happens in the decision that's made. Unless the application describes specifically the action that the board is being requested to take, then the public notice won't provide the requisite information to the community. And if we were to make a decision on something that was not included in the public notice, then that decision, in my view, would be vulnerable to a legal challenge by someone who opposed it. And so, in my view, we can't make a decision on anything that's not in here, that hasn't been noticed. And so understanding what you had said, that you want to go through this one time, although you are here, recognizing that. I think if you would like us to consider the 3-way division of the property, it would need to be renoticed. And I know that's not at all convenient, and I'm sorry that at least in my view, is the case. But I don't know about the rest of you. There are four of us here. I could be outvoted.
Well,
I agree.
Ms. Rogers, I take it there is no time urgency other than the fact that y'all want to get it done. I mean, right, so it's not like you have a contractor gonna sell it or anything. Y'all don't have any intent to sell it. It's been in the family literally probably since the king granted the property to the proprietors. Yeah. So I agree that I think the appropriate procedure would be to renotice it with the a clear indication of what is being subdivided. And Kurt, you have enough time to do that before the next meeting, right?
Well, I mean, you could.
What did the notice say? Yeah, I mean,
There probably needs to be a.
is there, is it, well, the survey, no, I think the survey,
We could,
We could, if we were to rule it, like, after it's renoticed, if we were to rule in favor of subdivision, we could make that a stipulation, after the fact, if we were to approve it. I don't think we would have to ask you to wait unless you tell me otherwise, to have a survey done of the,
Yeah, you don't have to, but I think. Well, I think you could either.
I mean, the only thing that I think we can action on tonight is the division of parcel A and parcel B. That's what's been asked for. That's what's been notified. But
Probably, I think. Yeah.
Kurt, can you add clarity to the financial aspect of our decision-making authority? And how it relates to their application and it clearly stating something of financial, benefit to the family.
we don't care.
Testimony.
then I guess the question is, do you want us to consider tonight dividing the two parcels into two lots? Or do you want to wait and get the whole thing done in one fell swoop?
Please state your name, please.
I'm Mackenzie. I'm one of the siblings.
Okay.
174 Fuller Parkway, Beaufort. We're referring to the end lot, like Jeannie had said. There are three lots, one with the main house, one
Right.
with the little house, we called it, and then the end lot. Go ahead with the end lot. You were. That's age, age.
I'm talking about like 30, I'm not
Right,
talking
yeah.
about years.
That's the only thing is that we would like to get it settled with the trust, because right now there are 5 siblings. Heaven forbid, but when we make our demise, other than Jeannie, it's gonna pull in so many
Right.
other factors into it. Like it not because of a benefit to anyone, it's that it's in the trust, but this is the way it should be done. That's really what we're at. And the only reason it came up to do A, B, and C possibly was because they were saying if you're going for a division, maybe you want to do all three. But our main focus was that in property.
So I'll go back to my question.
Yes, sir.
Are
You
more
want, you want to go ahead with just the single subdivision into parcels A and B tonight? And then then to subdivide parcel A, you will reapply for that.
Yes, sir. If we're referring to the same thing.
Okay, on the map up here,
There are three separate lots.
No, ma'am, there's,
But there are three lots. It's one, but according to this, you can see
What you want,
sections.
what you want is the main house,
Yes,
the
sir.
wood fence as would be a lot divider, not just a fence. And then parcel B. But that's not what was advertised.
what was advertised was strictly A and B.
B and divide that blockhouse and then the undeveloped part.
So
It would
Kurt,
just be
again,
that end.
I come back to the planning department. Could they not amend the application, advertise it, and bring it back for the next meeting? I'm sorry?
You have two options. But they've submitted, if not. But we did have discussions about that, I wouldn't.
So you're saying,
Right, you can. For that one subdivision.
well, that's,
It's up to them. They would like to see how this goes and then go through with the trouble of the next lot for waiting for next.
If they don't obtain what they're seeking tonight, does that disallow another meeting to subdivide?
Lot. But
My original goal was to just divide the property into two lots. And parcel B would be the piece that we would subdivide from the main parcel. When we were in the meeting with the city, they asked, why aren't you going for it all at the same time? And so I said, well, then let's do that. So in forms that I have submitted or in committees I've gone before since then, I have said we would like three parcels. But I think in the paperwork that was just submitted, maybe it was just one.
Well, if you remember, I told you, sorry. I said we needed on a something, we needed you to show that, and it's just a fence line right now. And so I think I was confused because that wasn't submitted. And so maybe I should have asked you, but I also thought maybe you thought about it and you just wanted to do the one lot. So
Yeah, well, when I spoke with Julie in the city office, she said, I think you already have that middle section. You already have a survey for that, so you don't need another. So,
yeah, there's no survey on the middle section, so maybe that was the problem. But there's just a, I think whatever we do, again, that's just the fence. They're just showing the fence. That's all it is. It's just, they're showing, their survey's supposed to show anything that's on the lot. And so they're just showing the fence.
So
But-
base,
I think you just need to say, do you want them to consider B? And then come back with the additional lot or not? Do you want to see how this goes, or do you want to table?
based on the application, we would subdivide into parcel B and a 0.90 acre parcel, correct?
What's on the plat in front
But
of you?
what I'm looking at
That's
on
what it
this
would happen.
proposed
You would be
survey,
giving a variance to
on
do what you're
proposed
looking at,
plat,
to record this essentially, yes. So I think you just need
then
to,
they would have to come back
we have to come back for
with
a
a
future. lot.
further subdivision of parcel A.
That's right.
I mean, to me,
So I think you need to ask
Either-
her what she wants
to
to.
me, the
So that-
easiest thing,
I think you probably shouldn't give her that. I think she needs to
well,
make that determination.
so I'm gonna stop.
Do you want them to hear this? Or do you want to table it?
I think we should just, yeah,
You said what?
I think, let's do a little round robin here.
Do you have anything else, Ms. Rogers? Do you have anything else for us? If not, we're gonna close the public meeting.
Well, you haven't taken.
We're gonna have a
the comment-
discussion.
You haven't taken the other comments yet.
I'm sorry.
Sunderland's here.
Are there any comments? Wait a minute, guys.
Good evening. Lisa Sunderlow with Historic Beaufort Foundation. Not to add to all that's been going on, but Ms. Gouldner just graciously turned this mic on. I got several emails texts from people saying they couldn't hear what anybody was saying because this mic wasn't turned on. So just come on. So that's good. You don't have to repeat everything that you've said. I appreciate all of the back work that Kurt and his staff did in putting together that report. That was a very comprehensive report. And I want to kind of clarify a couple of things with regard to the historic district and why this was so important when this ruling was put forth in the 2017 book. So back when our National Landmark Historic District was created, that was the 1973 actually, but the designation of our Beaufort Historic District, which is the one that they're referring to in the document, was 1969. And at the time that the National Register Historic District was created, our period of significance was determined to be up to originally to the 1930s. It was originally at that time, and then it was updated again to 1953. And I think that the interest in doing it to the 1930s at that time frame was that historically, looking at the point and looking at what's now our 304 acre historic district, is that the large lots that you see right now along the point and also in areas of the old commons as well too, that was how Beaufort was initially laid out. They had taken farm lots much later during the Reconstruction period where the Northwest Quadrant is, and those became properties for freed African Americans. But the other lots typically were much larger because, as you recall, a lot of those were townhouses and in-home houses for folks who lived out on the islands. And I think it's not doing justice to say that that particular edge of the district was perhaps not as important, because all parts of our district are critically important and were an important part of the original grid pattern and the original laid out plan for our community. And that 304 acres recognizes the original footprint of Beaufort. at the time when it was laid out. And it was between 1809 and 1811 that the point was annexed into the rest of the city, what had been known as Black's Point. And it was annexed into the rest of the city. And when that occurred, we still had those large lots. And we had those large lots pretty much up until the 1907 fire. We still saw those large lots within the district. So when this property, it was handed down through their family, it was also a very large lot. And I know Ms. Rogers has shared with, the importance of the property to the family and what it has meant to the family. And when they first presented it to the Historic District Review Board, it was recognizing the fact that their brother, Charles Amar, has been picking up the property taxes for the whole property all this time. And so the thought process had been to divide that up so that the other siblings were paying their fair share of those property taxes. Our recommendation, as was one of the initial suggestions from the Historic District Review Board, was why can't y'all just do an agreement amongst yourselves then?
Well,
That we're
excuse
going
me,
to do.
Excuse me. Historic District Review Board
It was a suggestion during
not take a
discussion.
position on.
No, they did not.
And
It was a suggestion.
We are here on an application.
Sure.
Does the Historic District Foundation have a position for or against the
Yeah,
application?
and I'm getting to that, sir. So we made that same recommendation that why don't you come to an agreement amongst the family that everybody picks up a portion of those taxes. And Ms. Rogers said she felt that that was not what the heirs wanted. And, I think that there is potential opportunity for those to be sold off, no question about it, because you don't know what heirs are going to end up doing with property. In 2017, the reason that ruling was put into our Beaufort codes is that we were losing that grid pattern and the subdivisions from 1953 up until 2017. We lost a lot of the original lot sizes. And as Kurt just said, it continued after that because people weren't even aware that that clause had been put in there. So from Historic Beaufort Foundation's standpoint, we feel very strongly that the fabric of the district needs to be preserved. The original intent of why it was put into the code needs to be preserved. And we don't need to keep eking away and breaking up our National Landmark Historic District because at some point, unfortunately, we may lose that designation and lose the very fabric that creates the environment and unique community that we love. Thank
So
you.
my question is, did the Historic District Foundation object to these other 14?
We were not aware of them.
That have already occurred?
We were not aware of them. They obviously were done, otherwise through the city and we weren't aware.
But y'all would have objected.
Yes, we would have objected.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mm.
Any other public comments? Mr. Freeze, you have a comment?
I would just say before you go to discussion and close
I'm sorry.
when you close the public hearing, I think you really need to get the applicant's decision. Do you hear the case or table it? Because I think
I'm
then I
all
would
ears.
have discussion.
Respectfully, I mean, the applicant's preference certainly is relevant to us, but the code is our governing document, right? And section 9.2.4 of the code, or I'm sorry, 9.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing with you with that. I'm just saying that I think she has to, it's her request, right? And so I think you've already determined that you would only consider what's on the screen, right? The A and B.
But it's against the backdrop of us knowing that there's a subsequent request. And so that raises the question of whether or not there is a complete application.
Well, I think that's, she's made an application. It has A and B. So I think it's her decision. Does she, she needs to tell you, do I want to table this or do you want to, I want to go forward with hearing it? I think you need to know that before you make, and even that decision, I think that's probably appropriate, right?
I'm good with that. Ms. Rogers?
Just might save a lot of.
I would like to address something that Lee said earlier about the grid and the original footprint when Beaufort was chartered in 1711, and I understand that is not the footprint they're going by. The point, which was originally Black's Point, was not part of the original footprint. The property that we're discussing was not a complete piece of property. It had washed over time. So to talk about it as this huge piece of property, it was not in existence until my father had added on. The little house that, the one-story brick house was built in 1952, and the main house, I believe, 1955. I've heard over and over about the grid, that we don't want to change the grid. So I did ask what the grid was, and it's the city streets. We are not asking to create a new street. We simply want for our family to have their property. And it's not so much my siblings, and I mean, right now, several of us are having health issues, but it's the heirs that are coming along that could really create a boondoggle for everything. So that's why I am trying desperately to get it taken care of now. That would be the time frame I'm working under, is to make sure that it is given to the children of my parents before we have to deal with extended heirs. So at this point,
What would you ask us to do?
I guess at this point, I need to ask y'all to table so that I can go ahead for the whole purpose of this is to give the family what is theirs by the trust. And
Thank you.
to do that, I would need to ask for the 3 subdivisions. So I
Thank
think
you.
I need to reapply. So it's just,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we don't want to make this a bureaucratic nightmare for you at all, but the way, and I know how it looks, right? But the decision you made is the correct decision in terms of someone being able to potentially challenge anything that was decided.
Is there any public comment from online? No. No? There being none, the public meeting is closed.
For the table this.
We, the chair will entertain a motion or discussion. It's open.
So I make a motion that we table this until the application is revised and comes before us again.
I believe a motion to table does not require a second.
I'll
Just in
second.
case, okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The application is tabled. And till the next meeting? That, okay. Any other business? There's none on the agenda.
Everybody should have received a board calendar.
Yep.
Correct. With
Yes.
those dates, ask about, we'd like to alter the 24th to the 22nd. So
Let me look
Monday,
at,
November 24th and Monday, December 22nd. I know that's getting into holiday season, just like this meeting got altered. That's something this board wants
I
to
can
consider
tell
an
you
alternate date.
right now,
It was a problem this year, so
without a,
probably will continue.
Say again.
It was a problem this year.
Yeah, so we might get ahead of it. And, of course, no one will remember next December 22nd, but if you have a motion to maybe do it, the problem being that the The third Monday, which would be what, December 15th, would be the planning commission meeting in the same room. So if you were to do an alternate date, it would have to be like a Wednesday or Thursday again. That would be like, like the 17th or 18th of December. And I don't know if November 24th would be a problem, but you,
I can tell you, I have a problem on the 22nd of September. It's a religious holiday.
so
I
that's
mean,
maybe something you want to
I'm,
consider.
I'm only one of 5, so.
What, why don't we, confer offline?
Yeah, you could
And-
have this.
And then
yeah,
we can take
next
this up in the
meeting.
next meeting
That's
when
fine.
Patrick's around too.
So we'll put this on the agenda for next meeting, and then in your next meeting, you will have a election of officers too. So just, that'll be the first thing on the, so you're aware.
And I just want to confirm with the holidays coming up right now, we will have sufficient time to renotice their application, correct, for the next meeting?
Yeah, we just need them to actually
Okay.
draw the line to show
Okay.
that's indeed what they want.
All right.
No further business. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
Second.
we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.